cast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for today's Hackin cast. We are actually going to start off by doing a quick little fun fact about peacocks from Flynn.
So, bit of a backstory. I took Latin class when I was in high school, and one of the few things that stuck was the fact that the Latin word for peacock is pavonem.
Yeah.
That's a hard word to say.
Yeah.
In case you ever need that, which
All I remember is how to conjugate a verb, like the amo, amas, amat, amamas, amadas, amat. That's it. That's all I remember.
I had
You got it right.
Say what?
Yeah.
A horse
That's
is a
it.
horse, of course. Is that what you're saying?
I don't miss verb conjugations or any of the conjugations.
Yeah. We do have a resident Latin expert. Justin's in the background, I know,
Yeah.
joining us, but I know that he is very well versed in
They
Latin.
probably already knew peacock.
Yeah, I bet you did. He was probably thinking to himself, oh, that's whatever the word was. I
Right.
can't even remember it. Just happened.
So the reason we brought that up is last week we talked about peacocks and
Yes.
goats and all kinds of fun things.
Yeah, we talked
And
about
goats.
how peacocks can be kind of mean and make very weird noises. So, and if you don't know, look it up. They do make some very strange noises.
Yeah.
And in case this is your first Hackin cast with us, welcome and thank you so much for joining us today. This is not the actual webcast yet, as you've hopefully figured out. This is our pre-show banter. As we like to say, we show up early because you show up early, and then you show up early because we show up early. And it's that vicious cycle that we love so much. We created a t-shirt for it. And you can see the deputy sporting her pre-show banter t-shirt. I only show up for the pre-show banter. If you love hanging out with us for the pre-show banter, you can grab your pre-show banter t-shirt on the Spearfish General Store. And we're going to share a link to that now in Discord and in GoToWebinar. Which brings me to my next point, which is if this is also your first Hackin cast with us, then you probably don't know about our Discord server yet. And we do have a Wild West Hackin Fest Discord server. We use the Discord server for the chat during our Hackin casts, along with all of our trainings. You get private channels when you take a training with us in our Discord server. And there's other fun channels for Twitter and LinkedIn connections. There's also a job board. So it's just a great space to interact with the community. And you can come hang out with us in the live chat channel, which is the one with the little bullhead. And that's where we're going to be hanging out today.
I grew up in an interesting area. It was starting to become suburban, but it was still somewhat rural. And one of the best senior pranks that was pulled was somebody released 3 hogs in the school building, and they greased them up. But before they greased them up in a big fat Sharpie, or like, I don't know how they did it, but they put numbers on the side of the pigs, and they put 1, 2, and 4.
Oh, so everybody was looking
So
for
they were like, where's 3?
Oh, that's
Where did you even find the pigs in the first place? They have to go like ask me, hey, can I borrow your pig for something?
No. My high school actually had an ag component to it, so it was rural enough that you can take ag as your trade.
And I thought I had a weird high school.
Where did you grow up?
Just outside of Canton, Ohio. It's a town called Jackson. Now it's all suburban, but when I used to go to school, like I would go through a bunch of dairy farms, and just depending on what season it was, or what cycle, it would either be soy or corn or canola, a lot of canola. So, yeah, but now it's all ticky-tacky houses that look the same. So,
Yeah.
Oh,
So Slegna has no answer. He didn't think it would get this far.
it's called the bluff.
Thanks.
Wow, they release skunks in the halls of the. Oof, that's not even cool.
That's one that people remember.
That's
One time I was sleeping with my window open and a skunk sprayed outside of my window. That was horrid for like 3 or 4 days. Like it woke us up. It was so terrible. My sister got sprayed by a skunk too when she was on a walk with her dog. She was just started crying because she just felt so horrible.
So as y'all know, I went to a one-room country schoolhouse, right?
Yeah.
I was in the 5th grade in Nebraska. And we had snakes.
Oh gosh.
And lots of snakes. And I remember they'd be like, in the morning, they'd be like, so when you're reaching into your desk, make sure you check it first before you put your fingers in there.
Well, it's funny. My mom always, because she grew up in Australia, and hear people just like pick up logs and stuff out of tall grass. She's like, you would never, ever do that. And you always have to check your shoes before you put them on.
No, just wouldn't be a fan.
Here in Orlando, I do have to check the hose for lizards before I put a sprinkler on the end of it.
Yeah.
That's sort of
They're
related.
flying out at you.
Oh, and they get smushed. It's more like it. And you've ruined your sprinkler.
I've been in a meeting before and had one of my cats chase a lizard into the room and start chasing it around under my desk. Fun trying to keep my cool. And I actually thought I muted myself too, to then yell at my husband to come get the lizard out of the room. And I didn't mute myself.
Oopsie.
Yeah.
You know, if COVID has done one thing, it has made that like acceptable. You know what I mean?
The
Like before
interruptions.
COVID, Belda and I have talked about this on other Hackin casts and things too. It's like we've been work from home moms for years, and we had to like threaten our kids, like, don't you even breathe in this room. You got to stay out. Like, I'm going to get in trouble. But so now it's like, oh, you know, my kid's coming in the room, walking behind me. And so that is one good thing. At least COVID, I think COVID actually brought us all back down to earth. I think.
Because I just graduated from university and I got a phone call from the president's office and my cat started throwing up.
Yeah.
I was constant, like, what do I do with the situation? So
Yeah. It's just like, you just got to roll with it.
just hope to God they can't hear it.
Yeah.
Well, hey, if you are just joining us, this is not the actual webcast yet, as I'd hope you could guess. This is our pre-show banter. And as we like to say, we show up early because you show up early, and then you show up early because we show up early. And it's that vicious cycle we all love so much.
Thanks again to all of our nerd herders, which they know I love them so much.
Hats off to the nerd herders who picked their own name, by the way.
Yes.
If you would like to become a nerd herder, you can also do that, correct?
Yes, you can learn how to become a nerd herder in our Discord server. We have a specific channel set aside for the nerd herders, and it tells you a little bit about who they are, what they're responsible for, what we give back to them, and how you can become one.
There are no hogs involved.
Yes.
Yes.
Or cows. Or
Skunks.
But there may be a mechanical bull.
Just
we
lots
might
of
require
nerds.
you to ride the mechanical bull.
There you go.
I think Slegna is first because he gave us that awful question with no answer.
No answer. Yeah.
What's slicker than hog snot?
Yeah.
I have no clue. Well, Corvus says Belda and I have met a long time ago in a way west, Hackenfest far, far away.
It's hard to say fast.
No, Corvus works with us. It's Bronwyn.
Oh,
Yeah,
Corvus! Yes.
That's the one problem with
With this-
usernames. is
yeah.
Sometimes you forget who you're talking to.
Yeah, with the nerd herders, I had to get them to send me their actual names and stuff to try and keep track of everyone. I'm like, they would ping me on, or they would send me an email. I'd be like, why, when did I tell this person I was going to do something? I have no idea who this is. I'm getting socially engineered. I know it.
Hey, we have Chase asking on GoToWebinar if we're ever planning to do a conference on the East Coast in like the Atlanta or DC area, or, you know, somewhere East Coast.
Well,
Wild East Hacking Fest does not sound terribly cool, though.
Yeah.
Well, you're always west of somewhere.
that
So-
exactly. Line.
Okay.
We're west of the East Coast.
Well, it depends. I mean, if you are inland a little bit, then you're west of the Atlantic.
Right.
Mm.
And I think the answer to Chase's question is not currently, but in the future, we hope to have one on the East Coast. We're not exactly sure on the location yet, but it will be somewhere along that East Coast line. So,
Orlando would be real convenient for me. Just saying.
Yeah.
But everybody
Hi,
goes to
me
Orlando,
too.
so that, I don't know if that's a really interesting to anybody.
You know
Well, it's
what?
cheap there.
we could do it on the West Coast of Florida, and then it would still be on the East
There you
Coast
go.
and the West Coast.
Ah, you still get that West Coast beach.
Did
That sounds
Yeah.
like a great
And
idea
it's
right
a
there.
little close to you, right?
I have to
Yeah,
be honest.
Southwest Florida.
When I was with Sands, my very favorite place to go was Virginia Beach, Virginia. Mick, have you taught there?
I've taught there once. Why was that your favorite though?
I just, you know what? The hotel was right on the beach. So our
Yeah.
office was all
That's
glassed
nice.
in, and
Yeah.
it overlooked the ocean. So every morning you'd get to the office and you'd have this beautiful view of the ocean. And then when we were there was also the music festival. So there was a balcony around the office, and you could go sit out on that balcony and listen to all the music and stuff in that area. That big, I don't know, there's like a big sailor statue at the end.
Yeah,
and then they have that. Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah. I think it's isn't it King Neptune?
It is King Neptune. That's what I couldn't remember.
Well, I'm from Virginia. Well, not originally, but I live here. So
It was cool. It was a cool event though. It was a lot of fun. I liked it
Yeah.
because it was laid back and it was, we were at the beach.
yeah, and it
I
was
was
like
wondering-
2 weeks usually, wasn't it?
Yeah,
That
I
was the
usually
longer
volunteer.
one. I always tried to volunteer for that one.
Yeah. It was awesome. That was a fun event.
Yeah.
There you
I
go.
think-
Wild West Hacking Fest.
Wild.
Love it. All right.
Favorite place I ever taught for Sands was in DC. They screwed up the meal vouchers and they said, hey, just go and have breakfast at the hotel. And there was like this super long line at the buffet. And I was just like, whatever, I'll order food. And it was a swanky place. And so I got it was crab cakes, but it was like sausage and biscuit, but instead of sausage, it was crab. And it was
Oh my
amazing.
gosh.
It was awesome. And
That
they didn't
sounds
put the
good.
price on it because I thought it was just the same price as the buffet. And I was wrong. I burned my entire weekly per diem on that one dish. So I went to Jason and I was like, hey, and he's like, yeah, we're going to comp that because that's ridiculous. Like, and I explained the whole story and he was like, yeah. If you ever do that again, though, I'm running you over with a train. I was like, all right, fair enough.
At least up there, you're getting pretty close to the really good crab. So
Here's the thing. It was good. I don't think it was worth the $85 that they were charging for it.
Yeah. DC's nuts. Like the way,
Oh.
I mean, Velda can attest to the food and beverage up there. I mean,
Yep.
it's insane. I mean,
Yep.
even McDonald's, if you go to McDonald's, you get like a 4-piece McNugget. It's like $20. It's like, what? It's crazy. So I'm like, with my kids, I'm like, there's food in the cooler. Like I
It is
won't.
cheaper to get a train out of DC and get food.
Yeah.
Train out of
Sure.
DC.
Insane.
Look at that crab. Oh,
I know. I'm wanting crab now.
yeah, I
Being
know.
this close to
God,
Maryland does not. It hurts.
Oh, Smithereens is here. I didn't see him earlier.
hello, Smithereens. We had some good ones. We got a lot of
Good
great
song.
people here today, including Mick and Flynn, and we're really glad to have you. It's awesome that you could join us, Mick, and it's always good to reconnect with people that I've met, through other organizations. So I really appreciate you being here and taking the opportunity to speak on our Hacking Cast today. That's awesome. We love sharing knowledge. In fact, that's kind of what Wild West Hacking Fest is all about, sharing knowledge with others. And as I like to remind people is please get out to your communities, share your knowledge with others as well. Make sure you get out there and help people. Pay it forward. So I won't mention my favorite charities as I normally do, but I'll just say, get out there, pay it forward. Let's helping each other.
Volunteer
Is what it's all about.
Yep. One of my favorite John Strand stories, I don't know if you folks have heard this one because he doesn't tell it that much, was when he was in college. He once got tasked to pick up Henry Rollins to take him to an event. And Henry was like, so what do you do? Because like he's pretty intense. And John's like, I'm into hacking, sir. And he's like, oh, what's the hacking scene like here? And he's like, it sucks. It's not very cool. And then Rollins was like, well, it's up to you to make it cool. You got to go out there and do stuff. You got to get out there, give to the community. Blah! And like Strand was like, so after I changed my undershorts, I decided I need to give back to the community. And like I can literally picture that in my head, and it's
Yeah. So like the rock star created the rock star of cybersecurity.
Yeah.
For sure. Because I don't think he's stopped since that happened.
And that's a great analogy, and that's a great story, Mick. And I'm so glad you shared that today.
That's awesome.
I have heard that story before, but it's been a while. And I kind of had forgotten about that. But that's a cool part about this is being able to give back, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. We definitely love giving back to the community. As I'm sure many of you know, or I at least hope so, if you take a training class with us, 10% of all the proceeds earned from that training class go directly towards a charity or organization of the instructor's choice. So we're always trying to make sure we give back wherever possible.
And some of the instructors choose open source projects.
Yes.
Which is a really cool way to keep those alive and going.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We are at the top of the hour. So Mick and Flynn, I'm going to let you guys take it away, and we'll see you all soon.
Right.
Thanks, guys.
cool. Well, before I get started, I just want to say thank you, everyone, for attending. Thank you, Wild West Hackin' Fest crew, for letting us come and share our fun and excitement of this stuff, because this is a real interesting passion project of ours. So let's just dive in. And because we got the live chat, feel free to ask questions and we'll do detours as needed. Like, there's no reason this can't be like customized to what y'all are after. So a little bit about myself. If you don't know who I am, hey, my name is Mick Douglas. I run a consultancy that I founded called InfoSec Innovations. In my quote unquote spare time, I teach for SANS. I primarily teach two classes, 504, which is the Hacker Techniques and Incident Response class, and 555, which is basically like how to hot rod a sim and make it really sing. And I'm also a member of the INS faculty, and you can follow me on Twitter and see me rant and rave about who knows what.
And I'm Flynn. I work for Mick. I started as an intern when I was in college, but I've graduated now and just kind of carrying on. I'm on Twitter as well. I don't post a whole lot, but I am there. That's my dog. But no, yeah, I've worked for Mick for now for a little over a year, and this is kind of our project that we started when it's a startling lack of information that we noticed.
Yep. Now, somebody mentioned the sling. Yeah, I jacked my shoulder up, so I am sleep deprived because it's hard to sleep in this thing. So if I get a little loopy and off the rails, well, hey, that's just a bonus. So
He was
let's
fighting a bear.
so if you are watching a recording of this and you don't have access to the live chat, feel free to download the talk. We've got it up on our site, so you can go get that. So let's chat all about what to log. Now, this is a totally free project that we're doing. So basically, one of us, Flynn, had a very interesting insight in that there was a lack in the industry. And so we embarked on this project. And the more we investigated, the cooler and cooler it became. So eventually, what we did is we made this tool and made it freely available, and we need input. And so what we've got is this mission statement of what to log. And it's basically, we want to build the preeminent crowdsourced site that teaches you what to log, how to log it, how those logs will help you. And then also, and this is an interesting twist that we're really going to be happy to share with y'all where we're at on this, is it will build custom scripts to actually either set the logs or pull the logs for you. So this is really, really fun stuff. So let's kick it off with a demo. Flynn, I'll be driving the site. Why don't you chat while I'm doing that?
So, as Mick mentioned, this kind of started when we were like, hey, is this resource out there? And it wasn't. And I was kind of shocked by that because this to me is something that's so important. So we basically put our heads together and made this a thing because we thought that people needed it. And we also wanted to keep it open source, freely available, all this kind of stuff. And definitely a huge community input as well.
Yeah. So there's a couple things that we want to highlight throughout our time together. But one is that we show you how to do as much as possible using OS built-in components so that you can actually do what you need to do to defend in a living off the land kind of way. A lot of attackers do living off the land attacks. There's no reason we can't do living off the land defense. We've also got this thing called the log pile. That's the scripting element. We'll be talking about that a little bit later, just a little tease for what's later on. And then we have a blog where we talk about various things log related or changes that are going to be coming up to this site. So what we're going to be doing with the limited time that we have is giving you just a light touch overview of this site because it gets deep fast, and we want to give you some info so that we can collapse that learning curve for you so that you can get up and using the site right away. So one of the things that kind of differentiates us is that we're making it so that it's for pretty much everything. We're going to be making it OS agnostic, application agnostic too, eventually. And that's one of the things that kind of is a little daunting about this project is that this is going to be an evergreen project. There's always going to be new stuff to add and all kinds of crazy things to do. We'll dive into a little bit more about what the living off the land for logging is, and then we'll show you a log pile a bit deeper. So let's talk a bit about what we're going to cover in our limited time together. And one of the things, I know this sounds a little weird, but we need to explain why we're doing this because it informs a lot of what we're actually going to be doing. So basically, one day I gave Flynn a task and I said, hey, Flynn, could you put some research together? And she said, yeah, but what did you say, Flynn?
I need the resources to do it. And
Yeah, go ahead.
Mick came back and said, oh, that's actually not really out there. And my mind was just absolutely blown because I was like, why? It should be out there kind of thing. It was such a fundamental idea to me. Like logging is so intertwined in computer systems that to me, it just made sense it was out there. When Nick said it wasn't out there, I was just kind of like, oh, it's a bit broken. I was like, what? It's not?
Yeah, it was really weird because basically I said, hey, I need you to build together a suggested bit of logging across a couple different things. And she was like, oh, sure, send me that site. Didn't exist. And she was like, what? How? And so as a result, we started building this. And one of the things that I want y'all to do is spread the word, because this site is for everybody. We're trying to get the word out that this resource exists. And here's why these different communities inside the InfoSec industry should care about it. And one of the things that I'm really worried about is that I have a lot of my clients, unfortunately, that come to me and say, hey, a regulator or an auditor told us to do this thing and we can't. Like it just can't be done. And so we're trying to push back against these unrealistic, unworkable solutions and just get down to the basics of what's actually doable. Now, I'll admit part of the reason that I am funding this project and will continue to do so is we do a lot of sim engineering. That's kind of one of the things that I love to do, is to hot rod a sim. And it's really tricky to know like all of this data. And so having this as a one-stop shop is really nice. And I think you'll dig it for that. And yeah, and more, right? Everybody's got something out of this. So please spread the word. Almost everyone can benefit from this. Oh, and then somebody says, yeah, some vendors tell you to log everything. Well, of course they do, because they've got perverse economic incentives to do that. And by the way, if any of y'all believe them, I'm not asking for too much. All I'd like you to do is tell me who your storage provider is. I'm going to buy some stock in them, because it's just insane what they're asking for. So,
someone asked about, real quick, network logs, and yes, we actually are planning to move towards that. We wanted to start with the basic things like operating systems, because that was really, really easy for us to get our hands on and test, and just kind of start building out what we really wanted. But we do plan on expanding what we're going to cover, which is actually talking about in a minute. So.
Yep. And somebody mentioned the infamous Appendix L. That's something that Flynn and I have been spending a lot of time in. So yeah, we're like, keep these things rolling. Like, we're gonna go through and look at your suggestions. We really appreciate them.
However, something I found interesting a long time ago was Appendix L took us quite a long time to actually find, because we had to do some digging to find it. And that's always been my kind of issue when it comes to logging, is a lot of this information isn't out there, isn't a focus, a lot of things. It took us, I think, about, how long did it take us to find Appendix L? We only found it fairly recently in the scope of this.
Yeah, I think that I blame search engine optimization, because, if you say like Windows events to log, all of a sudden you get vendor X that's trying to sell you the compliance appliance 5000. So, yes, there is a Discord server for what to log. I neglected to put the link in that. I'll put that in Twitter. Well, so watch me on Twitter and I'll get that out. So, yeah, go ahead.
I can also share the link real quick.
Oh yeah, put it in there. Put it in there right away. So one of the things that I want you to understand is we've got an always under construction philosophy for what to log. And we kind of envision this being Death Star 2.0, right? It works, it's fully functional, but it's still being built out. And so we're hoping that the community interest will help drive our selection on what additional operating systems need to be in there, what applications, some nuanced things like, for instance, there was a mention in the Discord about network logs. We've already got it so that it can monitor on a Windows machine the Wi-Fi networks that you join, but we'd love to take that a lot further. So that's the sort of stuff that, like, why we jumped on this opportunity with both feet. We want that feedback. By the way, the reason we got that what to log logo that's all professional is I wanted to use Death Star 2, and Disney attack lawyers would probably come after us. So we're not going to tempt fate. So Here, what I think we can do best is help you folks understand what our vision of the roadmap is, and then you can give us suggestions on where we're missing the mark, or maybe help with the prioritization. So we've got a lot of stuff that we want to do with the site, and we'll share with you where we're at, and then hopefully you keep this stream um, of feedback coming, because we need it. We really are starved for that at this point. So right now there's three main efforts that are underway. We've realized that we were originally doing these commands as one-liners, and that's what we have right now. So if you go to the site, this will be a little bit of a spoiler, but I'd rather show that. Okay. So for a lot of the Windows logs, what we're doing is we have one-liners that you can use for various tasks. And that works all right on Windows, but where it tends to break down is on Unix-based operating systems, where you have to do some checks to see like how a particular daemon is configured. And so to that end, we're adding in multi-line script capability, and that should be pushed soon. I don't have an ETA on that yet, but that's one of the things that we're working on. Another thing, and this is going to cause a lot of heartburn in the industry, is if you look at, say, like a Windows event log, not only are a lot of Windows event IDs next to worthless, even within the Windows event IDs that have good info, there's a lot of repetition in fields, or there's fields that you just don't care about. And I've been doing sim, tuning and log aggregation since like 2005, 2007. And, there's a lot of fields that I drop, and I think you should drop them too. And what I'm hoping to do is get a community consensus on the fields that are lesser valued. I'm not going to say ever, I don't think we should ever say, like, don't grab this. But, if you're playing that horrible game of we're licensed for X amount of gigabyte to consume in a 24-hour period, what are some of the fields that we can let go? I think that would be a very useful tool. So we're going to hopefully start adding that, but that's one where we're going to need a little bit of consensus from the community. And then the last one, this one, I straight up, I got no excuse. All I can say is, es tut mir leid, je regrette. We messed up. I can't believe that we didn't think of adding multi-language support, multinational support. And one of my friends, recommended like that. He was like, "Hey, could you do a Japanese version?" And as soon as he said that, I was like, "Oh!" So we're re-architecting the site, unfortunately, because the way it's set up, we have to alter the directory structure and a variety of other things, and so that's in process. And some people are like, "Hey, can we contribute?" Hell yes, please and thank you. And the reason you want that is, though I can speak German sort of, you don't want my German writing. It looks like it would be appropriate with a crayon. So like I would love some help on actually any of these, but we will absolutely need it on the multi-language support. Now, these are the things that we're actively working on right now. Where this next slide goes is the things that are in the hopper that we're starting to think about doing. And I got to tell you, wow, Mac OS. Flynn and I are laughing.
Oh no, it's pain. It's a lot of pain.
You would think so. Mac OS, for those of you who don't know, starting in Big Sur, not Big Sur. It was Catalina. I forget which rev. It wasn't too long ago. They moved to a unified log format, and you would have thought that would have been a slam dunk. Wrong. It is so convoluted. so convoluted. And to make it extra spicy, the documentation, Flynn, how would you characterize the documentation here on this one?
What documentation?
Exactly. It's appalling. The fact that we're having to use the man page tells you how desperate we are, right? Like if a Unix admin's using the man page, things have gone sideways, and that's where we're at. Right now, we're only focusing on Ubuntu OS, and there's no rhyme or reason there. Okay, I'll own it. We actually there was a rhyme or reason. What was
Yes,
that?
there was. I know how to use
Yeah.
Ubuntu. That was the only one. I mean, so people don't know, I have just graduated out of college, so I don't have a lot of experience with a lot of different operating systems, and Ubuntu was the one that I had touched before, so we wanted to do that. And it's better than the
Okay.
Apple, so let's start it there.
Yep. Also, for those who know me, I'm a Unix admin from way back when, and Debian-based Linux are the ones that I lightly prefer. So that's why we landed on it. There's no, special reason. If I could foresee, as we go to the multi-language support, that the German and Austrian crowd will be like, hey, let's get some SUSE Linux in there. So yeah, we'd be happy to do that. Let us know, and we'll start getting in there. The Windows logs, I want to be clear, we're right now focusing on application, system, and security, but we have lightly touched into some of the other operational logs. So, the network, Wi-Fi network for one, we're hitting other channels. Chances are you folks know ones that would be good. And one that's an untapped gold mine that we haven't yet done is Sysmon. So that will be a lovely area to explore. So if you folks are looking to hit the ground running on a thing where you can just jam out with your passion, this is an area where you can do that. So too, with applications.
Real quick about Sysmon, it is mentioned on the site in the OS tools section. It's just not integrated necessarily into the actual log pages, because my thoughts on it was it's a Windows tool, but not a native Windows tool, and our focus really was a lot of the native tools that come pre-installed on systems. So in case of if you aren't necessarily the most adept at logging and this kind of stuff, it's still really, really easy for anyone just to hop right in and say, hey, look, I don't have to do a whole lot, but I can get started on this.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's true. Also, we want to start doing application logs. I certainly foresee that we'll be doing web logs, and I'm also a database administrator. I would love to have different transaction logs or things like that in there. So let us know what applications make sense to you. And probably the biggest one, and we're starting, this one's kind of a weird one, the compliance and framework logging. We actually already have a light touch of that, and we'll highlight that when we start doing a breakdown on the different components of the different elements. So we've started that. I expect that to be an ongoing series of efforts. So bottom line, if you haven't caught it yet already, we definitely need your help. And so this is where the crowdsource aspect of it comes into play. So when it comes to what to log, we need and crave that feedback. Right now, I feel like we've got spark, we got fuel, we just don't have that air. And that's what we need from y'all. And so reach out to us on Twitter. We have a Reddit sub that's there. And like, we're waiting. Like we'd love for you to join the party.
And that was the Discord too, which everyone just flooded into.
And Flynn, did you post the Discord?
Yes, we have. Do you not get all the notifications?
Thank you.
But one thing I want to add on the community element is this kind of is more than just mechanized sitting behind our keyboard saying, hey, you should do this, you should do this. We really want to get the different viewpoints, the different people saying, this is what I really needed, this is not what I needed, because it should be a conversation. It's not always one size fits all when it comes to logging. So if we can get different people saying, hey, this log's really important when you're doing this, we can add that and start talking about that, which I think the conversation behind this is an aspect we are missing. We really want to start building up.
Yeah, and I don't want to get too conspiratorial, but I've been in the industry long enough to know that some, not all, but some of the like guides that are out there really are just a couple of folks going like, well, I don't know, let's log that. Yeah, that seems good. Okay, let's log it. And there's not the like rigor that you would think. A lot of times, like if you start pushing or nudging on things, like it just comes unspooled. Um, I'm not going to name the regulator, but believe it or not, there's an agency that actually tells you to turn off PowerShell logging because they don't want you to have passwords in the PowerShell logs, which that's stupid as the day is long. Like I'd want to know that the PowerShell, that the passwords are there so that you can catch that. So this is exactly, the reason that we need folks. So let's dive in. So let's
Just
dive
real
in
quick, I
on
saw someone posted logs are like seatbelts. Should you need them, it's usually too late. And I think that's a very, very good analogy. The fact that people skip them until they really, really need them, and then they don't have them.
I like that. That's a solid way of approaching it. So one of the things that I'm liking about this project, and that playing cards face up, one of the things that I've used it already for is helping to tune SIM and log aggregation systems for our clients. Because I don't know if you've ever actually looked at the logs that come off of, say, a Windows machine or a Unix machine, but the signal to noise ratio is pretty abysmal. It's really, really bad. And so what we're trying to do is give you a way of tackling a very, very expensive and common problem. And part of the reason, and we've already lightly touched upon it in the Slack or in the Discord chat, is that the vendors actually have a perverse incentive to have you consume more and more services rather than filtering and only putting the content in that you need it. So one of my favorite phrases when it comes to logging is what Justin Henderson calls the half-life of usefulness. Some logs age like milk. If you think about a DNS log entry, it's not worth that much after, say, a week, certainly a month, right? Like if you've got a malware domain and that's a DNS log entry, that thing isn't going to remain a malware domain fairly long. So start thinking about these things. And we sat down, and this was probably, for me, the most tedious part of getting things set up was having these suggested logging levels. And so what we've got are like the bare minimum level of what you should be collecting off of a system, ideal if you have the capacity to do it, and then extreme level of logging. And one of the things that we're hoping to do, and part of the reason that we made Logpile, is so that you could easily move between these different log levels as appropriate. Because let's say you're under attack. You'd want to dial up your logging because all of a sudden that machine is going to be of more interest to both the attacker and you. So having the ability to dial it up is really, really solid. Now, this bit here is something that I wish more people use. So sharpen your ears and pay attention to this, because we're loading you up with a really cool resource. If you ever are in a situation where you struggle with your client or at work with turning on a particular log, and believe me, I've been there, what we've got for you are preloaded, like why you want to use these particular logs. So for each log entry, we actually walk you through what the log is, why you want it. And I think it's a very potent weapon against people who advocate just doing defaults and nothing more. So here we see like user login, Okay, that's the log that you're going to get. We tell you what OS it applies to. This here is one of the most important elements. If you're having to push a political battle at work, do not fight. Just say, well, this site here says this. I don't know, community driven. I think that this isn't a bad idea. And that way you're not burning your political capital on things that you don't have to. You can save that for another battle that matters a little more. Now, this stuff is critically important, but I don't want you to be the adversary against whoever. Let us be the adversary. And yeah, I know it sounds weird, but I've used the site that we've built against clients or against regulators that we were arguing with. And I'm like, yeah, the site says this. Meanwhile, I push the config. So go ahead and do it. It's a form of social engineering, right? Social engineering isn't just for phishing links. But now check this out. This is where we weaponize the site. This here, what we have for each entry, we show you how to enable the log. So if it's not enabled by default, we give you the command. Maybe you need to disable it. We give you that command. We also show you how to view those log entries native to that OS. And then you can also check the logging status. So as a result of this, you basically have all the high-level functions that we could think of that you would need to do for a particular log entry type. And what you can do is you can either copy paste. That's what this, here, let's see if this, here we go. This clipboard icon, you can just click that and it'll put it onto your clipboard and you can paste it and use it right away. Or you can click the add to the log pile, which works a little bit like a shopping cart where all your scripts and config options get saved for later. And then you can just go ahead and start using them.
One thing I kind of want to cover with this too is this is where we're adding some changes as far as log pile goes, because as I mentioned earlier, a lot of these actually do need multi-line scripts, especially when it comes to Ubuntu and that kind of stuff. So this is changing a little bit as far as adding more support in general, but as of right now, it's fully functional except for Linux, really, because it's a case of that's just not as straightforward as turning logs on and off. Because if you do that, you turn off syslog, which is not recommended, well, ever. So we are still tweaking this as we go, and it's been an ongoing thing of here's how we can fix it. We need to add this, need to do this. So it's a case of we're working on it, and if you have any more suggestions how we can improve it, please send them our way. But yeah, we are hoping to add more and more, and we're actually also moving away. We're going to get Win events soon too.
Okay, so one thing I'm going to just lean in. Somebody said they don't agree with the approach of dialing up and down the log volume. That's fine. I mean, you pick what works for you. The reason that we've done this is for the organizations that we have as clients, it would be, at least for most of them, it would be ghastly expensive to do that. And so what allows them to do is dial in the pain level they're willing to tolerate. And I will absolutely concede the point that if something's disabled and then something bad happens, you don't get that log. That's fair. That's absolutely correct. That said, when you're talking about an organization that has, say, 250,000 associates globally, you might not be able to dial that particular element on across all endpoints. So you're going to have to pick your poison. And if you want, I mean, for goodness sakes, you could light them all up. And if you have the capacity to do that, awesome, right? Like, we're just trying to make it, one of the things that we tried, and maybe we missed the mark, I would love input on this, but we tried to make it so that the recommendations were a little more value neutral. Like, we weren't like the early rev, I think we called it like, one of the revs was like, if you don't do this, you're incompetent kind of stuff. And that was too loaded. So I definitely want it to be, helping people understand the idea behind that.
And something too was it was a case of we hope to make it a little more approachable. That if even if you don't have experience or you have a little experience, logging can be a monumentous task for anyone to tackle because there's so much information out there and there's a lot of lack of information out there as well. So it's a case of we wanted to make it so that if you come to this site, you can say, I can start with a minimum and work from there. And you can at least get a feel for how to do this. So it's a case of you don't have to turn it all on and off all the time. But if you were turning it on and off, we want to make it easier. We also want to make it approachable because I know that when I started this whole thing, I'd open up the event log and be just overwhelmed because there was so much information. I didn't want to miss something. I think a lot of things people run into. So we wanted to try and make it a little more easy.
Yeah. No, and that's exactly how we're doing it. The other thing too, and this is something that I want to kind of explain because I've had a couple folks misunderstand what we're trying to accomplish here. When you see an entry and what to log, we're going to show you how to enable via both GUI and CLI. And that's a deliberate choice. One of the things that we have to kind of get over as an industry is that it's CLI or nothing. I would much rather have that somebody be doing it manually through the GUI and getting it done, even if that might be slower than somebody doing things at the CLI. They're at least getting it done. So don't let perfection be the enemy of good enough. Also, here's something to point out. I have learned that a couple of the people who have been using this site will use the GUI to test things, and then once they're happy, they'll shift over to the CLI on how to turn things up. Now, I hope you understand that we can't have copy paste on GUI. Like, that doesn't work. Like, there's no way to do that. So that's why Logpile and these examples are copy paste snippets. And what we want to do is give you literally everything you need in order to really focus on the task at hand. And that task is, I want this bit of telemetry. That's it. That's all you should have to care about when you're using this site. Everything else should just be click, 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 and drop dead easy. Now, I see there's a lot of questions, and we're probably going to be spending the better part of today answering these, maybe even next couple days, and we'll get to them as best we can. And
One thing I want to bring up before we, if someone asked about mapping the different log events to provide for certain MITRE attack tactics, I think that is fantastic. That is a wonderful suggestion. Absolutely.
Yep. Ooh, I really like that approach. Yeah, somebody made a comment, start with your end goal and work backwards. I love that. Yep. So great question. Are there any plans to extend this project to like how to use it with SIMs or log aggregators? And the answer is yes. Yes. One of the things that I envision, and I'm not sure yet how this will happen, but what I would love is for this tool, possibly as part of the log pile system, that you would have, here's the things you need to do on a particular host in order to enable the logging, and then here's the config that's appropriate for a Splunk heavy forwarder or a Logstash or a whatever. And so, that's something that's technically doable. I would really like the help of some SIM vendors. Hint, hint. SIM vendors, if you want free advertising for your product, we will be happy to give you appropriate advertising that you helped provide those configurations, because if that gets solved, life will be infinitely easier. So let's dive in on the custom scripts. This, I think, is the thing that we're really hoping to reduce friction. And I want to be clear, we're not done with this area. Like, it's functional, but this can become so much more. And part of the reason that we wanted to have this dialogue with y'all is so that we had the opportunity to share this. Okay, so we've got a couple different options. You can either copy and paste. And to be fair, there might be a reason that you want to do that versus downloading a script. So let me slide over to that. Flynn, I'll let you tell the story. Like, what are some things that you think would be a good set of logs to gather?
Well, user logon
Okay.
and failed user logon.
All right, so let's enable that. What else?
Failed user logon, definitely.
Failed user logon. Let's add that.
And then I'm thinking, let's do software installed.
Okay, software installed. Oh, we don't have that yet.
Oh, that's the multi-line one.
It is, yeah.
Do member added to group then.
Okay, I like that one. That's a solid one. Okay, so add that. So now we have these 3 different enable loggings. So if we go to view log pile now, you'll see that these different elements have been selected in the selector. And in that grid, you'll see that we've got these clicked for enable. And then you can just say, get my scripts. And now it gives you, at least as of right now, it gives you the one-liners that are needed to enable this. So that's where we're at. I know some of you are probably saying, well, what about GPO? We'll get there. We'll do that. We'll have that. But what we're trying to do is make it as fall out the chair easy as possible to turn on the logs that you want, and then you can consume them. So I love the suggestions. I love the idea of how to take the log entry, make it easier to import into the sim. One of the things that I like to do, so let's turn these off. What you can do if you're doing like hunting or incident response, if one of your TTPs is you're looking for, a failed user logon and a member removed from the group, you can click that get my script, and these commands will actually give you the events of interest for you so that we're collapsing your hunting analysis.
And one thing on the far right, you can see there's a save to file button. So either you can just copy and paste these directly into your own file, or we package it up for you. We just know that some security-wise, it can be a little funky if we're trying to save a PowerShell script to someone's computer. So we gave both the options for complete transparency.
Yep. Yeah. So what this allows you to do is you actually can download a PowerShell script, or if you're doing the ones that are on Linux, you can do this. You get a bash script is what we're using for that common environment. So awesome. I got to tell you, folks, this is just warming my heart hearing how much you folks like this. So like basically what we're hoping is that you use it, number one. And number two, I actually hope that you use it to the point where you're like, you know what, this part of it's not good. Let us know. Like we're passionate about this, and you are not going to be like, if the baby's ugly, let us know, because we can fix the baby, and we need your input. Here's the deal. Like a lot of open source projects, people are like, but I can't code. I can't do this. I can't do that. You don't even need that in this case. All you need to do is be able to say, hey, that thing right there doesn't work like I want it to. And that's what we're asking. Now, goodness me, if you can code, please join in the party.
Save me.
We will take it, right? We will take what we can get. But this is one of those opportunities where literally all you have to do is point and say, I don't like this, and give some suggestions. And, to the extent possible, we'll make it happen.
And thank you. I've been seeing a lot of people sending a bunch of different resources, and that is absolutely amazing because we do look through all of them extensively. So
Yes.
it is really, really helpful. I started a binder and got for our last webinar of all the different compliance frameworks, and it's like this thick. It's like this thick now. So we look through and we use them because it's so important. We want to carry this as far as it can go. We think it can go pretty far. So.
So, yeah, that's wild log pile. So here's the deal. I just want to say thanks again to everybody who showed up. Just even given like, hey, did you think about this? Did you know about this? Thank you. We have some of those resources, but hardly all of them, right? So we are going to be looking through this. You're keeping us off the streets and out of trouble, which is appreciated. But also just the opportunity to get out and get the word out about this project. But on a personal note, Flynn, I want to say thank you because you asked a really cool question, and that's one of your superpowers. I don't know if you know this, but you ask these questions that are very small yet powerful. Like they're just these little laser focused questions that you're like, ooh, I should have an answer for that, but there's not one. And I loved that you asked the way that you were like, well, I just need this thing. And I was like, yeah, you do need this thing, but it doesn't exist. And when I said that, like, I just heard this sigh that you were like, oh. And then you know what you said? And I'll remember this. I remember this like it was just minutes ago. You said, can we make it? And I was like, hell yes, we can make it. And that's what started this whole party off. So thank you. Like that is a very cool outlook you have on life, and one that I really appreciate. And that's part of the reason that I want to fund this project as long as I can. So yeah, thank you.
And of course, on the flip side of that, I mean, this wouldn't be here without you. I wouldn't have even probably gotten into this in the first place. I mean, I've always loved forensics when it comes to computers, especially. So being able to do this and kind of get to the other side of forensics is really, really interesting. And I love the fact that so many people are out there getting so much use from this, because that to me is really important. So thank you for all the support, because it's been a journey, ups and downs.
It has, and to be fair, so again, maximum transparency. There have been days where one of us needed to nudge the other because we were struggling on parts of it. And one of the things that I'll be candid, I would love to have more community support so that we have folks that we're accountable to beyond just us. Help us, get fire in the belly, folks. And you know what? Again, like if you can, pick up that code and start helping, I'd love that. But again, all I'm looking for is share it, point out what's wrong, and help us iterate on getting it better. Now, I don't know how to end this talk. I will say this is kind of weird that this talk even exists, because it's 2021 and we're like, hey, here's how you turn on logs. And people are like, this is awesome. Yeah, it is awesome that this tool exists, but folks, this should have been solved a long time ago. And so, like, we can't fix the past, but we can fix right now. And the fact that you were enthusiastic and putting all these sorts of comments in, we're saving this Discord chat, and we're going to make it do what we can do. But it's weird that we're here, right? So lean into it, embrace the strange, understand that a lot of times the conventional wisdom on how to do IT or how to do security, the conventional wisdom isn't always so wise. And so we want you to add a little science. One of the mottos of InfoSec Innovations is better information security through science, creativity, and caring. And that's part of the reason this is a passion project for us, because it's hitting on all of those. So have fun with these fundamentals, but also be a little terrified that we don't have these fundamentals on the lockdown, at least not yet. We can, though, and we can do this together. And this involvement, this excitement has given me a lot of hope. So thank you. That's one of the best gifts that you can give to me right now. And I do want to leave you. Yeah, go ahead.
Logs are fun. I think people miss that. They're not just this boring thing of, okay, I have to look at logs now. Up, up. They can be so fun. And we were talking about it actually before the pre-show, is they can hold so much information. And when you get to the bottom of that, it is so satisfying and so enjoyable. So I think if you embrace logs as a resource, and a fun resource at that, you will go a lot further and learn a lot more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And one item that I do want you to take some hope out of this is that, yeah, there's a lot of things that are straight up messed up in InfoSec. And I'm not going to try to candy coat it, because I'm known as a bit of a straight shooter in InfoSec, and I'm not about to tarnish that reputation right now. But one of the things that I'm hopeful about is that we're now starting to think about security differently. You know, we could have had MITRE ATT&CK framework decades ago, but nobody had thought about it yet. And so that concept, that mental construct, hadn't yet existed. And so now that we're having that, look at all the cool ripple effects it's having. And I love that somebody mentioned, you know, like, let's pair that up with that. I'm a little embarrassed. I got this in the slide deck and I hadn't thought of that, right? So it's that kind of stuff that, like, working together, this hive mind, we form a better whole. So let's go out and do it. You know, there's parts of this that you can look at in despair, but the flip that I have is that the barrier for entry right now of having a big impact is actually pretty thin. You know, all that whattolog.com is a couple web servers, a little bit of back-end code, and that's it, right? Like, we're going to start changing things, and we don't have to do a whole lot. So let's go out there and get it. And so here's some things that we need some help in. You know, go out, look at these things. For you, one of these are going to resonate. You're going to be like, ooh, I need that thing. I need that. Let us know, and we'll make it happen. So bottom line, tell us what sort of stories you want to tell. If you let us know what you want, like somebody put in the Discord chat, they said, start at the end and work your way backward. All right, well, what's the story you want to tell? And then what are the elements that you need to tell that story? So go out.
That's one thing Mick and I have always said about this, is logs tell stories, not backwards, but logs do tell stories. When you put them together, you can tell an exact story of what happened on a system, what happened during an attack, all this kind of information. And if you don't have those logs there, you don't have a story to tell. And I think that's a lot of what information security is telling that story.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So folks, reach out. Please, like, we need your involvement. If you haven't got that at this point, one last final pitch, reach out. And then the last thing that I want to say is that this project, What to Log, is a free project. It always will be. And I want to say thanks to the suggestions that you folks have given already. I want to say thanks to the folks on the What to Log Reddit community and the folks on Twitter. I also want to say straight up thanks to the clients that we have, because you're helping fund this. So, you know, if you're, you know, hint, if you want to help along on the project, just see how we can help you on security things, because everything that we can do to make this better is what we're trying to do. So folks, I'm kind of spent. Let's hit it off in the chat for the next couple minutes before the stream boils down. But otherwise, thanks. This was awesome. I really appreciate the chance to come out and chat.
Thank you so much, guys. That was a really awesome presentation. I can see we're getting a lot of people still asking how can they help contribute, or how can they contact you guys to help volunteer. So if you could toss up that page with your contact info one more time. I'm not sure if you guys have any other ways you'd like them to try and contact you, or.
And the Discord, which we practically include in this, but a lot of people have been joining. So
awesome.
Yeah, no, we definitely want this community input, because we want to be more than just Mick and I, like I said, behind our keyboard saying, hey, do this. You want to hear what people say, actually, you should do this, or And of course, it's going to be a conversation. It's not going to be everyone's going to have a say, but a case of we can't just have one person overruling this. That's the whole point of this, is it can't be just Mick and I. We want to have this whole well-rounded conversation about it. That's what it should be.
Oh yeah, awesome things can happen when you have a whole community contributing to a project. So, and hopefully you guys will get, a few extra hands from this. We can definitely see a lot of interest.
Would love that.
Awesome. And we do still have a few extra minutes before we technically are at the end of the presentation. The Deputy Velda, I don't know if you're kicking out there, if you had any words you wanted to say, or if any. Hello.
I'm working in the background here, guys. I just wanted to say again, Mick, Flynn, thank you so much for doing this presentation today. We'd love to have you back in the near future to share more good information with us and with our community. So please, we'll be in touch with that as well. I'm a broken record, so I'm just going to mention Way West is coming up again. Reno, Friday's last day to ensure that you get a full swag bag. Lots of cool stuff going on over there. So take a look at our training lineup. We have some great virtual trainings as well. So that's my spill for today. Mick, it's great to make connection again with you.
And thank you guys so much for having us. It's been absolutely a blast, and we've gotten a lot out of this because we have all the great resources that have been provided to us now to start looking through. So,
awesome.
Well, if you two could stick around and maybe answer some questions in the Discord, that would be great. And take a look back to it.
Yes, and if you guys want to share the link to your Discord channel one more time in our server, that would be awesome.
I will.
Someone just DM'd me an amazing question. They said, which Windows event was the hardest one to determine that you needed? That's a great question.
I know what my answer is.
The one that I find the weirdest and I thought would have been a better source of telemetry was the Windows Event Log Service stop. So the Windows Event Log Service will shut down during the shutoff process and can create false positives. So that for me would be mine. So that's a bit tricky. Flynn, what was yours?
That's interesting because mine was Wi-Fi logs, disconnect. At first, I could not figure out why we needed them because I also couldn't find them. And I was like, well, why do we need this? It doesn't make sense. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized it can actually be used in an attack and can be a really good sign of an attack that I think is often overlooked. So I think there was a couple things like that were like, why do we need this? Oh, okay, never mind. That actually makes sense. And of course, that one I had to dig to find that one because it's not in the normal 3 channels.
It is. Yeah, it's tucked away. Part of the reason that I gravitated toward that one is there was an client of ours that does biomedical research, and it was corporate espionage, and we busted the spy because they took a family vacation to I think it was like Cabo San Lucas. But before the spy joined their family in Cabo, they went to the competitor and gave the proprietary database. And what was interesting was, so when they should have been in Cabo, we had an event log that they joined the coffee shop across the street from that org that they sold the proprietary data to. We looked it up on wiggle.net, correlated it, busted. It was such a cool win.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like I said, you can tell the stories of these logs because you get things like that. It's the case of there's no way it's useful, and then you tie this whole thing together, and it's this amazing story. It really is, and it's kind of mind-blowing sometimes.
It was actually awesome to see the guy's face too when we said, so were you in Cabo? Yes, yeah, totally in Cabo. And they even had like social media posts, but they were from later in the week when they joined. And So we're like, so Cabo's not this coffee shop? What's that about? And then just were like, oh, and collapsed.
Mm.
Like, all right, well, let me tell you everything. And it was actually worse than we thought. So yeah, logs are awesome.
Wow. Yeah.
Hogs are fun.
Well, thank you so much again, Mick and Flynn. It was really awesome getting a chance to meet you guys. I'm sure I will get to meet you again soon. If you could hang out in the Discord for just a little bit longer, answer any more questions that are coming at you. And we are going to wrap this up. Again, if you want to check out any of our upcoming trainings or conferences, you can head over to our website, wildwesthackingfest.com. And hopefully we will see you all in the next webcast.